So Caitlin Clark is in Miami. Yes, Caitlin Clark is in Miami right now with Aliyah Boston.
Caitlin Clark just showed up in Miami with Aliyah Boston during a CBA lockout, while Unrivaled is running, while Angel Reese is playing, while the entire WNBA is holding its breath waiting for a deal. One photo, one location, and suddenly the entire basketball world cannot stop talking about what it might mean. Drop a comment below. Do you think Caitlin Clark?
So Caitlin Clark is in Miami. Yes, Caitlin Clark is in Miami right now with Aliyah Boston. Caitlin Clark just showed up in Miami with Aliyah Boston during a CBA lockout, while Unrivaled is running, while Angel Reese is playing, while the entire WNBA is holding its breath waiting for a deal. One photo, one location, and suddenly the entire basketball world cannot stop talking about what it might mean. Drop a comment below. Do you think Caitlin Clark showing up to watch Unrivaled would actually shift the CBA negotiations? Or is this just a fun coincidence people are reading too much into? Let me be completely honest about what we actually know here before the speculation takes over entirely. She is probably just going to watch her friends play basketball. It is hilarious. And who knows? Like a lot of people are saying no, like I actually do not think Caitlin Clark is ever going to play an Unrivaled. I just do not, unless it goes 5-on-5. But her rocking up to Unrivaled, if she rocks up to a game, and by the way, Lexi Hull, this if you guys do not know, Friday is going to be the most watched day of Unrivaled. Because yes, I get it, Paige is not playing.
She is probably just going to watch her friends play basketball. It is hilarious. It is hilarious, and who knows? Who knows? Like, a lot of people are saying, no, like, I actually don't think Caitlin Clark is ever going to play in Unrivaled. I just don't. Unless it goes 5v5. But her rocking up to Unrivaled, if she rocks up to a game, and by the way, Lexi Hull, this, if you guys don't know, Friday is going to be the most watched day of Unrivaled, because, yes, I get it, Paige isn't playing, but Aliyah Boston's playing. You've got Lexi Hull, Angel Reese is playing, and Caitlin Clark might be there. Caitlin Clark might be there. There is a possibility that Caitlin Clark will go and watch Unrivaled. I don't think she's going to pull a Sabrina and be on commentary or anything. But there's a possibility that Caitlin Clark decides that she wants to...
But Aliyah Boston is playing, you have got Lexi Hall, Angel Reese is playing, and Caitlin Clark might be there. Caitlin Clark might be there. There is a possibility that Caitlin Clark will go and watch Unrivaled. I do not think she is going to pull a Sabrina and be on commentary or anything, but there is a possibility that Caitlin Clark decides that she wants to Caitlin Clark is in Miami. She is there with Aliyah Boston. That is the full extent of what is confirmed. There is no announcement, there is no press release, there is no statement from Clark's camp saying anything about Unrivaled or negotiations or chess moves or any of the larger narrative that the internet has already constructed around a single photo of two people existing in the same city at the same time. And yet, and this is the part that makes the story genuinely interesting, the timing is so specific and the context is so loaded that dismissing it entirely as pure coincidence requires a level of willful ignorance that is hard to maintain with a straight face, because everything around this moment, the CBA standoff, the Unrivaled rating situation, the moratorium on player-team activity, the leverage question that has been driving the entire negotiation, all of it points in a direction that makes Caitlin Clark being in Miami at this exact moment feel like more than just a vacation decision.
At this exact moment, feel like more than just a vacation decision.
She's been in Indiana the entire time. Pretty much in Indiana the entire time. And Unrivaled, obviously, when it comes to their ratings, they haven't been good. But, like, I'm sorry. Caitlin Clark, if it's known that Caitlin Clark is going to be there, she doesn't even have to play. if it becomes a thing where Caitlin Clark is going to be there and Angel Reese is playing as well, at the end of the day, we're now at the stage where this is going to be the most viewed 5v5, or this is going to be the most viewed.
Let's back up and set the full scene.
She has been in Indiana, pretty much in Indiana, the entire time. And Unrivaled, obviously, when it comes to their ratings, they have not been good. But, like, I am sorry, Caitlin Clark, if it is known that Caitlin Clark is going to be there, she did not even have to play. If it becomes a thing where Caitlin Clark is going to be there and Angel Reese is playing as well, at the end of the day, we are now at the stage where this is going to be the most viewed 5-on-5, or this is going to be the most viewed. Let me back up and set the full scene, because the context here is everything. The WNBA and its Players Association are currently in the middle of one of the most contentious labor disputes in the league's history. The Players Association implemented a moratorium on all player-team activity. No workouts at team facilities, no communication with coaches, no team-related participation of any kind. They are holding the 2026 season hostage over CBA demands, while simultaneously claiming the owners will not negotiate in good faith, a claim that fell apart publicly when the details of the owner's actual offer leaked and turned out to be genuinely substantial. The offer included over 70% of net revenue, average salaries jumping to $530,000.
Caitlin Clark in attendance. This is like, and then suddenly if Unrivaled randomly picks up, let's just say Unrivaled, with all of that being said, they were able to get 400,000 viewers, which is a record for Unrivaled. Nothing crazy, like 20% of what Caitlin will pull in an NBA game, half of what Angel Reese will pull in a big WNBA game. But like, even if you just go and do that, and you have any sort of capability of making this a big deal, and you can get those numbers from just Caitlin being in attendance and Angel Reese playing, then all of a sudden it's like
Maximum salaries heading toward $1.3 million immediately and growing to $2.4 million by 2031. Charter flights, better benefits, real revenue sharing tied to league growth. Not a lowball figure, not an insult dressed up as a proposal, an actual offer that should have generated serious negotiation rather than inflatable rats outside the NBA store. Caitlin Clark in attendance, this is like, and then suddenly, if Unrivaled randomly picks up, let us just say, Unrivaled, with all of that being said, they were able to get 400,000 viewers, which is a record for Unrivaled. Nothing crazy. Like 20% of what Caitlin will pull in an NBA game. Half of what Angel Reese would pull in a big WNBA game. But like, even if you just go and do that, and you have any sort of capability of making this a big deal, and you can get those numbers from just Caitlin being in attendance and Angel Reese playing, then all of a sudden it is like, and yet here we are, moratorium in place, season in jeopardy, negotiations stalled. And Caitlin Clark, the player who is the single most important commercial asset in women's basketball, the player whose presence in the WNBA is the primary reason those salary figures are even possible in the first place, is photographed in Miami with Aliyah Boston during Unrivaled season, on a week when the competition schedule includes Angel Reese. Let that combination of factors sit there for a moment. Unrivaled, for those who need context, is the 3-on-3 off-season league co-owned by Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, two of the same people currently leading WNBA Players Association negotiations. The same people, by the way, who famously did not show up to a critical face-to-face meeting with owners in New York because of travel issues from Miami. The league has been running, it has been generating conversation, and it has been doing so with ratings that have been, to be diplomatic about it, not impressive. The numbers have been rough. The viewership has not broken through in any meaningful way. And then Caitlin Clark shows up in the same city where Unrivaled is playing. The conversation around Unrivaled's ratings immediately changed tone, because here is the reality of what Caitlin Clark's physical presence at a sporting event does to the media coverage and the viewership numbers. It transforms them. She does not even have to be on the court. She does not have to be in uniform. She does not have to say a single word. If it is confirmed or even strongly suspected that Caitlin Clark is in the building watching a game, the audience for that game multiplies in a way that no other athlete in women's basketball can produce. That is not an opinion. That is a documented pattern from 2 years of watching what happens to ratings and attendance figures when Clark's name is attached to anything. If Unrivaled put out content confirming Clark was in attendance at a game featuring Angel Reese, and Angel Reese is back playing, which is itself a ratings driver, the most watched day in Unrivaled history becomes a realistic possibility. Not because Clark played, not because she said anything, just because she was there. Just because the camera found her in the crowd and the internet did the rest. One analyst pointed out that Unrivaled should consider literally paying Clark to show up and watch. Build an entire marketing event around it. Title it something that acknowledges the moment, the return, the reunion, the crossover. Make Clark's attendance the headline and let everything else follow. Because the reality is that 400,000 viewers, which would represent a record for Unrivaled, is only 20% of what Clark pulls in a WNBA game, and about half of what Angel Reese draws in a big WNBA matchup. But for Unrivaled, at this stage of its existence, 400,000 viewers on the back of Clark simply sitting in the stands watching would be a significant statement about the league's potential ceiling. And that potential ceiling matters enormously in the context of the CBA negotiations. Here is why. The WNBA owner position throughout these negotiations has been shaped in part by the reality that Unrivaled's viewership numbers have been weak. When a competing league is struggling to build an audience, it reduces the leverage of the players who are invested in that competing league. If Unrivaled cannot demonstrate that it can attract meaningful viewership, then the threat of "we will just go play there" carries less weight at the bargaining table. The owners can look at the numbers and reasonably conclude that the alternative is not that threatening. But if Caitlin Clark shows up at an Unrivaled game and the ratings jump to record territory purely on the basis of her attendance, without her playing, without her being announced as a participant, without any formal connection to the league, that changes the calculation. It suggests there is untapped potential in Unrivaled that has nothing to do with the current product and everything to do with which players are associated with it. And the player most associated with that potential is the same player who appears to be sitting in Miami watching things unfold. Now, does anyone seriously believe Caitlin Clark is going to play in Unrivaled? The honest answer is probably not, at least not under current conditions. The format is 3-on-3, which is not the game Clark has built her entire professional identity around. She is an elite 5-on-5 player, whose game, the shooting range, the passing, the floor spacing, the pick-and-roll execution, translates specifically to the full-court game. 3-on-3 is a different animal, and it is not the version of basketball that made her the most important player in women's sports. There is a scenario where Unrivaled transitions to 5-on-5 format. If that happens, the conversation about Clark's potential involvement becomes real in a way that it currently is not. A 5-on-5 Unrivaled league with Clark on the roster is a genuinely different product from what exists right now, and the commercial implications of that would be significant enough to shift multiple conversations simultaneously. But that transition has not happened, and there is no confirmed timeline for it happening. What is real right now is that Clark being in Miami adds to the overall picture of a situation where multiple pressure points are converging at the same time. The moratorium, the stalled negotiations, the Unrivaled ratings story, the leverage question, and a player who is not even formally part of the Players Association. Clark is not a member, which is a notable detail, who nonetheless represents the single most important variable in the entire equation. Here is the uncomfortable truth that the Players Association knows, even if they don't say it out loud. The leverage they have at the bargaining table exists primarily because of Caitlin Clark. The revenue growth that justifies the salary demands they are making, that growth happened because Clark arrived and transformed the league's commercial profile in 2 seasons.
The TV deals improved because of Clark. The attendance records fell because of Clark. The merchandise sales climbed because of Clark. The owners can afford to make the offer they made because Clark exists. And Clark is not even at the negotiating table, not a union member. And one photo in Miami generates legitimate sports news coverage. That is exactly where this story stands right now.